not everyone in care feels the same way because of the different reasons that people go into care for. But I do believe that everyone suffers trauma from it, doesn't matter what the reason is.
It's kind of inevitable if you've got chaotic home life, coming to school without your book bag, forgetting a textbook at home, or having a textbook damaged at home happened quite regularly to me. So you are kind of behind without meaning to be. So even if it's something that's important to you, sometimes you don't have a lot of choice about being at a session or revising for a test, or it will completely depend on what's happening at home.
After going into foster care, most of the times that I was put in isolation or excluded and things like that, it was because something had happened the night before and I had got into school not in the right mindset. For example, like my mum not turning up to contact, or like an argument with my foster family, something like that. I did revert back to that old behaviour when something bad happened at home, but they didn't seem like very considerate about that, even though they were completely aware that my home situation was so different to everybody else's.
I think maybe schools see the role as quite insufficient because there's a social worker there, and the social worker is the one that coordinates maybe all the meetings. But for that young person, it's not, because actually the social worker is changing every 3 months, whereas school, that's exactly the same. So yeah, I do think they need to understand that actually they're probably a bit more of a bigger role than what they think they are.
For lots of people in care, it gives an environment where they can have real consistency. It supports them in terms of the adults that are really familiar. And I think what we've seen is almost lots of stories of where care leavers, they've reflected upon their time in education and have almost looked at that as being a real support network for them when there have been significant changes or experiences for them.
It's not just the responsibility of that person who's designated for care at speech young people. Actually, you see your teachers more often and you come into contact with them more often, and actually they might not have a clue how to deal with anything, and naturally it's sort of they just ignore it and pretend it's not there because they don't have the training and the experience to be able to say, oh, what's going on, or give it a bit of an uplift to the situation.
The one-size-fits-all thing is never going to work for foster kids, because we're all in foster care for different reasons. We all react to our experiences in foster care differently. We're all different in so many ways. So I think they just need to take a little bit more time and care with us.
One professional did stand out, and I spoke to a lot more because their approach was kind and understanding, and they came from a good place and they just wanted to see me succeed, and I could see that. This professional always tried to understand, sit with me, have a conversation, ask how I am, ask how my siblings were, which was a massive thing because people didn't necessarily see how close I was with my siblings who were also at the same school. And so this professional just took time with me. It's that simple.
I know when I was in school, the way sort of me and that teacher sort of really gelled was he talked to me about Manchester City, and I had no interest in it in my but just like someone talking to me about something so normalised as what's going on in football, even though I didn't support them, it meant nothing to me. Someone treating me like, not talking to me about trauma, not talking to me about like placements, not talking to me about, oh, have you had a pet meeting recently? I think things like that. I think I can guarantee that if a teacher came up to me like, oh, how's like the children's home like been, I'd be like, go away, don't want to speak about it. Whereas if my like teacher, he would be like, oh, so Man City were on the football on TV this weekend, they played absolutely shocking. I'd be like, yeah, I know, I watched it with them and I ate it there. And it's them sort of conversations that draw up them feelings rather than, because I think it's just forced otherwise.
I think it's having that the security of yourself, being available, not undermining, overminding, not taking things for granted, but actually just allowing them to be. One of my young ladies that had just moved into care came and she sat in one of the rooms with her hood up with a book, probably for about 6 months. And she'd moved into care. She was finding the move, it was her first move into a residential care home away from mum, and found that absolutely traumatising at the time. And actually school was her base that she could come and just relax, I suppose, and actually I wasn't saying you need to be in that classroom, you need to be doing your maths and your English. At that point she was showing us by her behaviours, by her anxieties, that actually she wasn't ready for that, but she still came to school, and allowing her to just sit and read and be herself and take that time, she has now gone back into mainstream schooling and is flying, so yes, it's allowing these processes, and also things don't happen overnight.
I would say about school, there's been some professionals who have been absolutely fantastic, but on the large part, if I reflect about school, there are a lot of instances of kind of singling me out and not believing me, thinking that I'm starting drama or problems or creating chaos in a classroom.
Very soon after I went into foster care, within a month, I would say, I must have been misbehaving, and he turned around and said, well, you know what, I'm not surprised your mum and dad don't want you when you behave like this, which is just wild for anybody to say, but for a teacher to say also is disgusting. It was really upsetting because I had never thought about me being put in care that way. I had never thought for 1 minute that my mum didn't want me or anything. I was mature enough at the time to know that she just wasn't prepared to be a mother, and I have never thought ever since, really, not seriously anyway, that my mum doesn't want me. So I think that was the first time that I ever thought about it that way, the classic stereotype of you're in foster care because your mum and dad don't love you and don't want you.
In one of my reports for a meeting, school had commented that I like to push the boundaries of the school rules because I would wear one headphone in my ear and listen to music whilst I completed my coursework. Now, a lot of my teachers were fine with this because actually it increased my concentration. And I remember it saying push the boundaries with the earphones. I remember thinking, I'm not pushing the boundaries, I'm making adaptations to be able to learn. And I remember thinking, actually you don't get it, you don't understand that by me having that music on just in one headphone actually means that the whole class gets to learn. Otherwise I'd be up, I'd be moving, I'd be out of there. I didn't always have a good experience with school, especially when I moved around schools, but that one school that I had for the probably longest time and had the most support from, that's had a lasting impact, and I still think about them people. And although I might have had one bad experience that was quite significant, because of all the good that did happen, I still fondly remember their memories rather than dwelling on that bad one. I think people are human and they're going to make mistakes, but actually recognising that if you do sort of get the right training, you ask them questions with confidence to make it that individualised approach, you can't really go wrong. But I think it's all about confidence, and that'll make sure that each young person who is care experienced is getting that individualised approach where, them little human errors that we all make that won't be taken to heart are going to happen, but actually there won't be anything that makes it a bad experience. And that's what we need, because actually young people have so much going on with all the chaos from the care system, from whatever's gone on before entering the care system, that they don't deserve for that consistent place that's probably stayed throughout the whole life, pre and post care. They don't deserve for that to be negative, as well as all the homes and the people that have interacted with.
For us to be able to move forward, to make schools better for young people, we need to learn from our mistakes. We need to firstly recognise where there have been those challenges in the past, or maybe where we've not been able to offer the right levels of support for individuals, and learn from those. We can learn from individuals that have maybe not had a great experience, so that we can make sure that we respond to that in terms of our practice in the future. I think when you see the starting point for a young person, it can be really challenging. It can be really daunting for a teacher to think, how am I really going to support this young person when they've experienced such traumatic events and they're nowhere near the point of being able to access any type of learning. I think seeing that starting point, but then almost from the other end, seeing the success from it, and seeing that, a young person can achieve and go on and learn new skills and be really successful academically, I think it just highlights that that the work we do is so powerful, and it really can change a life for a young person and change the outcomes for them.